We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Live from the Visual Radio TV studios in Quincy, Massachusetts, it's We Talk Live with Curt Dalton from Cannabis.net and Jimmy Young from ProCannabisMedia.com.
Yeah, I want to actually give you guys.
Here we thought we were going to bring food to us. Like right now, now we get T-shirts.
So you said
a few articles on Cannabis.net about margin compression, and how I think when this 2 to 3 years out, we're going to see the price of this flower come down.
Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Weed Talk with Curt Dalton and Jimmy Young. I am the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, Jimmy Young.
And I'm Curt Dalton from Cannabis.net. Tonight, we have a great show. We get the wrap-up for those of you that listened last month and went to MJBIZ Con. We have lots of stories to tell.
Some we can't tell.
Some we can't tell what's happened in Vegas. Well, we'll just leave it there. We also have a new member of our show this month premiering. Hillary King will be coming in and talking about some cannabis products and navigating the cannabis industry if you're looking for reliable information and good brands.
And at the top of the hour, from now, one of the premier medical cannabis experts in the state. He specializes in integrative medicine. His name is Dr. Ryan Zachlin. He's from Salem. And joining him will be an old friend of mine from Newton, Massachusetts. He's the Grand Poobah of Alternative Compassion Services, a dispensary in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. His name is Stephen Werther. He'll be joining us as well. And, of course, you can find ACScompassion.com, and you find out where they are right on Elm Street in Bridgewater. But first, once again, we get to talk about the supporters of our show, our friends at Legal Seafoods. Guests appearing in studio of this show will get gift cards courtesy of our friends at Legal Seafoods. Plus, of course, Caroline's of Uxbridge, an adult use and recreational store in Uxbridge, Massachusetts. The first family-owned and self-sufficient social equity licensee in the state. And, of course, the latest cool way to puff. It's a Weedjet. That's right, the Weedjet. It's a smoking system, and we'll talk a little bit more about Weedjets.com and that smoking system a little bit later. But, of course, we also want to thank our national sponsor this time around. It's the National Cannabis Risk Management Association, a group of like-minded businesses in the cannabis space offering great membership services. You can check them out at ncrma.net. But first, Curt, has this been a crazy month over the last 4 weeks in the cannabis space? Am I correct?
Yeah, I think the MJBIZ Con show with 30 to 35,000 people, everyone from the world, if we'll say East Coast, West Coast, Canada, coming for Asia, Europe. You really had a lot of announcements, a lot of press releases, a lot of people unveiling new platforms, new products, new payment processing methods. So everybody kind of saved it all up, and just at MJBIZ Con, they unloaded the bong.
That's and hopefully there was no bong juice in there, water, right? You haven't had to deal with that in a long time, let's just say. Vaping is back in the state of Massachusetts.
Yes.
They opened up the concentrate world again, and I got a couple of texts real quick that I believe Sierra Naturals has one, and then there's another shop in Millis that also had their concentrates back.
I think so, and that means go short the main vape suppliers right on Kittery. That would I would say, because they just lost that whole business that was there for a few weeks.
And I think the biggest story since the Farm Bill passed a year ago is the fact that Major League Baseball and the announcement that Major League Baseball will now be treating cannabis like they treat alcohol, which basically means they're not going to test to see if you are using cannabis. And that is the first Major League professional sports organization to take cannabis off their controlled substances checkpoints, if you will. And I tell you what, Curt, as a sports guy, I never thought in a million years that it would be Major League Baseball. I mean, this is the league that brought us the steroid era. They brought us greenies and amphetamines in the clubhouse. And now, of course, they're embracing the cannabis thing. Were you surprised?
People still watch baseball?
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Yes, they do. And matter of fact, they're usually as old as I am.
Well, the interesting part of that is if you're looking at the athletic side of sport, not to pick on baseball players, but they've taken their beating as far as overweight first baseman John Crux during their time. You would think a sport like basketball or football that has so much contact and the muscles need to regenerate and the anti-inflammatories, they would have moved first. But Baseball, maybe they just said, "Oh, who cares?" Minor league, I think it's actually even allowed. So, not surprising, as you know, too. Jerry Jones has hinted at the NFL is written everything for cannabis coming up, or whatever the next collective bargaining agreement. It's kind of we see it coming, so it's coming.
It's this year. They're actually talking right now, and of course the NFL had to have a meeting about this and say, well, we are studying alternative methods to pain relief. Really? Why don't you just say you're taking a look at the cannabis plant and seeing what the benefits might be for your players instead of writing prescriptions for opioids for them? Really, Roger? Anyway, don't get me started on sports. I'll go off. A lot of speakers, 1,300 vendors at this MJBIZ Con, lots of speakers. I really like the ex-CEO of Netflix. I believe it. I got his last name wrong a million times. I must be losing my mind. I believe it's Mark Raymond. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
Yeah. So tell about that show. That was one of the keynotes, and people were really moved by his speech.
Well, I was moved by it, and I talked about it on my news video this past week, News Dabs, because I honestly thought he was talking to me. He was talking about, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to take a risk and roll the dice. Well, what better place to roll the dice than Las Vegas, Nevada, if you will? And I really... He gave me confidence. He said to follow your dreams, believe in your dreams, go for it. Because you don't want to go to your grave and say, I wonder if that could have happened. I'll be honest with you, Curt, back in the day, I dreamed about being a sportscaster in Boston. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it now and see what happens. And 30 years later, I decided not to do it anymore, but still, it was my decision on that end. And now I'm working in the pro-cannabis media space, and we are about to announce something very, very exciting. I don't know. Should I just blurt it out, or what do you think, Curt?
If you feel it, because the time is now.
I feel it, right? Well, I feel Mark Raymond now telling me, just do it, Jimmy. Just do it. Go for it. Go for it. So we are going to start a crowdfunding campaign to, I don't know if you know this, but traditional media sources, your newspapers, your televisions, your radios, are just not very cannabis friendly, let's just say. They look to sensationalize some of the most minuscule little stories that would never be covered in any other business if they happen to any other business, but because they're happening in the cannabis space, they make this into a big deal. Like the fact that they found inert cannabis in a dumpster, okay? And that became like a major deal. Now, it's like finding grass clippings in your dumpster, right? That you can't get high from grass clippings, right?
I tried. Doesn't work. I tried it with glue, everything. Nothing.
Anyway, so that being said, what we are doing now is, and we will be announcing this on the GoFundMe.com page in about, I think it'll probably be on Monday. But we want to raise some money so that we could go out and tell the stories of the cannabis and wellness industries in their own words, in their own backyards. That's right. It's a mobile TV studio. And the way we're doing this, I would think that anybody who's watching Weed Talk knows about the 420 thing, Curt. What do you think?
Probably a safe bet.
420, of course, is the code. Would you call it the code for cannabis?
It's I would say a code or an abbreviation or some sort of numeric symbol that we all know that are in the industry or at least fans of the cannabis plant.
Right. And so it originated. Do you know the origination?
We do have a long story about this up on Cannabis.net, yes.
Good. Tell the story, because I can make it a bridge one. It was San Rafael, California.
Yes.
A bunch of high schoolers got high every day at the Louis Pasteur statue at 4:20, 20 past 4.
Or under the bleachers, depending on who you believe, right?
Right. And fair enough.
Yep.
That being said, that became the call by local law enforcement for whenever there was a person or someone getting high out in the public. We got a 420 at the corner of, Jones and Smith Street. So that's how 420 kind of started. That was the origin. So with that in mind, we've already had Roger Berkowitz, the CEO of Legal Seafoods, on this show to talk about their little 420 campaign. So what we're going to do is, if you want to donate to the cause of this mobile TV studio that puts us back on the road, bringing the stories right to the cannabis space, to the wellness industry, to let them tell their own stories, for $4.20, a donation of $4.20, we're going to get you a great refrigerator magnet. We're going to mail it to you. It's going to have the Cannabis.net logo on it, and it's going to have the logo of Pro Cannabis Media on it. And we'll also have the saying, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Okay.
Exactly what you want in your fridge for those nights the neighbor comes in.
$4.20. It's a great talking, right? For $42, we're going to put a T-shirt together. And we're going to have the logos of Cannabis.net and the logos of Pro Cannabis Media and the saying, "It's a whole new world of weed out there" on this T-shirt. Limited edition, that's a $42 donation. If you want to donate $420 to the cause, we will engrave your name or your stoner name on a permanent plaque in that studio that we will be traveling around with, and your name will be there. It'll be engraved, and it'll say founding sponsors, thank you very much, and then your name. That's $420 plus. You will be entered into a contest to join Curt Dalton and myself on this podcast. How can you not want to do that, right?
This chair has your name all over it for $420. Come on. That's
right.
A bargain.
And that's a contest. Okay,
right.
We're going to pick 10 out of whomever we get out of the 420.
Right.
And of course, if you want to guarantee your spot, $4,200.
You're in.
You're
There
in
you go.
for 10 minutes, and we get to talk about your cannabis story here live on the internet with Cannabis.net, Curt Dalton, and me, Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media. And that's going to be our little crowdfunding campaign. A lot of people out there, it's never going to work, man. It's never going to work. And then I talk to some other people, go, oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. You know what? I'm rolling the dice. And we're going to make it happen.
Tell them why we really want the studio is that we're very restricted here. Very restricted. That is what we work under. Oh, look at, my phone's got to take it off. But there you go. How can we do our, pro cannabis show like that? I'm just telling you, we need our own studio.
And Curt has convinced me that the next show in January, that is on Thursday, January
Absolutely.
16th.
Special edition.
Will be an Under the Influence show. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. It's going to be called Edibles January for all the leftover holiday edibles.
Edibles January.
We're going to finish them before the show and go live.
Now, one more quick news item that we should talk about is some news out of Washington, D.C. Again, the lobbyists, the NCIA group down there in Washington, D.C., is trying to push the Senate towards that Safe Banking Act. Now, needless to say, over the last 48 hours, the Democrats and the Republicans, they had a little something to do.
Yeah.
And they were a little consumed by this impeachment thing. Whether or not this will actually see the light of day in the next year, I don't know. I can't believe how polarized our government has become over the last few years. Let's just leave it at that. No politics. But let's get back to MJBIZ Con. We actually have some video of MJBIZ Con that we're going to show you, give you an idea of what it was like to be on the floor, people walking around at the Las Vegas Convention Center. 35,000 people came through there, right, Curt?
Yeah, about that.
And actually, we're going to pan over. We might even see that Leafly booth. Well, it was there. And the thing that Chris Walsh, and we talked to him, he is one of the founders, the founding editor of MJBiz Day. We talked about him, and he'll be on a future In the Weeds with Jimmy Young podcast coming up in the next few weeks. And he was actually most impressed with how the booths have exploded in their vastness and their grandiose. And everybody has, the signage above, and, it's not just like a little table and some skirting and a couple of chairs.
Yeah, he was mentioning that when I asked, what's different? We're on, I think, 5-7 years, and it started, of course, with a couple tables, and that's how he said the booth size is that now they're much more elaborate. So you go from a $5,000 setup to a $25,000, and you're seeing some of the pictures now. Above the booth, there were 2-story booths. You might catch some of them. There were podcasts set up above in the second floor. There's, as Chris says, there's spinning stuff going on above. So you're seeing the haves, if you want to call them that.
Oh, there's Mike Tyson. There's Mike Tyson.
You yelled at him.
I did.
There's the haves who are becoming more of the haves, and maybe the have-nots who are not able to go to those levels for their display.
That's right. And Tyson, of course, is involved with a farm and a CBD farm as well. So he made an appearance, and he got mobbed. I mean, seriously mobbed. But he did walk by us as I was interviewing a few people, and I gave him an old shout-out, and he said, "Hey, Jimmy Young, you used to be a boxer." And I said, "No, that's somebody else."
Yeah, I used to be the reporter.
That's right. That's the guy. There was also another big event in Las Vegas that Pro Cannabis Media was a proud sponsor of. It was the Women in Cannabis Conference at the Eclipse Theaters in Las Vegas. Stacy Thompson and Annie Epley are the founders of that. And there was a whole bunch of speakers there, very powerful, 350 women surrounding me and about a dozen other guys.
That's a good. I like your odds. I like your odds, Jimmy.
I like their odds. I appreciate that. It was actually very moving. There was a 14-year-old in there that told the story of how she is advocating and changing laws to get access for young people who need the medicine to deal with their medical problems. And she was amazing. We will have a full show with Stacy Thompson, Annie Epley, and their whole Women in Cannabis staff the day after Christmas. We'll be releasing that on our social media channels. So that's the Women in Media Conference there. And speaking of Women in Cannabis, how's that for a segue?
Perfect.
You want to introduce our in-studio guest? You can do that.
She's made it in very quietly, so let's introduce her now. How are you? Welcome to the team. Welcome to the team.
What's her name, Curt? What does she do?
Hillary. I've already given her introduction about being the navigator of the cannabis space here in Massachusetts, helping people because there are a lot of neophytes who don't understand what is a bong, what is a vape pen, is it safe, who has the tested and safe stuff. So, Hillary, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What have you been up to while we were at MJBIZ Con in the last week or two?
In the last week or two, well, MJBiz was incredible. I couldn't believe how many booths there were. Like, you couldn't have even walked the whole floor in 3 days if you wanted to. Yeah,
it was definitely crowded in the aisles. I think I mentioned that on one of the reports where it was literally, you're bobbing and weaving and, people are looking at their phones, but it was a big show. It's worth going to once to say you did. But anyway, go right ahead.
So since I got back, it's just been, all the follow-ups, all the business cards and the literature you collect from stopping at these booths. Now the work comes of following up with these people and crystallizing those connections that you make when you're all finally in one place, everybody from around the country. So just doing a lot of HubSpotting.
So what have people said to you since you've been back and you got some products here? What is their response back to you when you say, hey, remember me? What did you think of the show? What are other people saying?
Well, I mean, I'm hearing the same thing, that year over year, people have just seen it grow so much. And I did hear some people kind of lamenting that, this year it was very clearly, more representative of the green rush that's happening as this industry gets legitimized more and more.
Can you define that a little bit? Explain what the green rush is.
The green rush. So, before cannabis was legalized and before we started building a regulated industry, there were a lot of people that would shy away from it, even shy away from just talking about it, let alone get involved in it as a business or as an investment. And now that we're seeing it grow and regulations are shifting, more businesses are opening, it's the hot area that everybody wants to be investing their money, investing their capital, starting businesses. So it's kind of compared to the gold rush that happened, early in the 1900s when, people started finding gold in California and everybody would rush in. And, so there's prospectors who are, touching the plant, growing the cannabis, making products. And then there's other people starting ancillary companies and services that are, like providing the picks and shovels, that kind of a thing. So green rush is just a term kind of comparing what's happening now with cannabis and CBD and hemp becoming legal, that people are rushing to get involved.
And Hillary's right on the undertone. So we did a story about this just when we got back. Chads. Did not know what a Chad was. So I'm a little older than Hillary, and I didn't know what a Chad was.
And I'm older than both of them. You can add it together.
So we did a story, and there is a little bit of an undercurrent now in this industry. And for those, it's on cannabis.net of, are you a cannabis Chad or are you, a sacred, an OG, like an old school, you're all about the plant, not about the money. And there is an influx, and people I won't say complaining, but murmuring about too many Chads walking around, which by definition in urban slang are white guys, 20 to 30-year-old, walking, and of course they've got checkbooks and they want to make money on the plant. And there's a group that's coming OG that's been here. It's more about the plant than making this massive profit. So cultures are colliding. It's on cannabis.net. You can just see it's a couple of articles down. Our cannabis Chads versus growers and I forget what the other person we put in there, but you're right. They're called Chads, as I found out, and some people wouldn't go to the show because they said it's just too many Chads now walking around.
You know, there is
Take it for what it is.
You know, I like to step back and look at the big picture and look at the positive side of things in this industry. But there are a lot of people who are looking to get in, make a quick buck, and get out. And there is some splintering going on in the pro-cannabis movement amongst the cannabis industry. Hillary, are you familiar with any of that? I know Curt knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, are you talking about what's going on locally in Massachusetts?
Well, it's certainly a pretty good example, isn't it?
Yeah, in Cambridge. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, not specifically Cambridge, because it, you know, you going to get me going on politics again?
Mm-hmm.
I think that these local politicians that are holding the industry hostage are on a power trip, and again, not serving their communities like they should. My opinion. Just saying.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, just inherent red tape when we're talking about state government. They have many different opinions that they're hearing about how the way things should go down. They're never going to make everybody happy. And there's a lot of, it takes a lot of time. We have what's called open meeting laws in Massachusetts, which means they can only do their business in a public forum. And there's mandatory waiting periods and comment periods, so things are slow. And, you never know what kind of influence is going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, yes, you do. You're in Massachusetts. Rhode Island's the same way. Any way these guys can make a buck on the side is what they're trying to do. They are not serving their public. It is a joke at the local governments that are holding these companies hostage with host security agreements. David Rabinowitz is the only guy that we know that was able to get a host security agreement without a location first. Talked to him about an hour ago. The New Can Group. Yeah,
I know it's really a shame that licensing isn't as accessible as people would like, and I think that might be the crux of this culture clash, is that the people who were around and fighting for legalization in the first place that enables anybody to be involved in this as an industry, they're looking around and not seeing those same faces are the ones getting licenses. I try to think of it like a rising tide will lift all ships, and there's really no fighting the tide of capitalism. Right?
Except the Chads have the yachts; they go quicker up the tide.
There's still a lot of haves and have-nots, and there's a big divide in this country. And a lot of the haves have a lot of money in this space, whether it is through multi-state operators or local operators. Each state has their own rules. Each state is trying to protect their local residents, but then again, they're also getting a lot of pressure to open stores. And Massachusetts has done a C as an average. Took them 2 years just to get a dispensary open. Okay, that's what bothered me the most. Took them a year to move the Department of Public Health over to the Cannabis Control Commission. I mean, look, you can drag your feet and make sure everything is proper, or you can just make decisions. Look at Nevada. Did you find it very refreshing that people were walking around and you smelled it everywhere? People were imbibing at Fremont Street. They were, it's Las Vegas. I get it.
But every cab has an ad for Planet 13 or Weed Maps or a dispensary. In the train stations and airports, there's advertisements. Their dispensaries are open 24 hours a day.
I know. That's crazy. It's not crazy.
It's a whole different world.
Awesome.
It's a whole new world of weed. I keep saying that. And that's what's going on in Nevada, as you might expect. Did you like it? Did you like the atmosphere of Las Vegas? I mean, it's a big party. I mean, you're only supposed to last 3 nights there. I ended up with 4.
Bad idea. 3-night max. That's the rule. Don't break the rules.
The good news is I don't think I did anything too bad at night. I was a good boy at night. I really was, because I was so darn tired,
Yeah, you walk the show, as you said. You literally walk 8 miles a day, and everyone has sore feet, even the people working at the booth. So you're pretty tired at the end of the day, and then when you use some cannabis, you're just relaxed. So.
Yeah, and then you have to go somewhere.
Right.
I have to go somewhere. I have to go to this party and see somebody, and the good news is I went to a party, I saw who I needed to see, and I was out of there in 10 minutes. It worked out perfectly. Worked out perfectly for us. Hillary, you got some products you want to show us. We got a couple of minutes. I'd like you to get through those a little bit and show us, again, this whole vaping thing has opened up a lot of doors for opportunity for inventors out there to come up with products that aren't as, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but I do want to use the word difficult, because sometimes when you vape, it's so convenient and so comfortable and it doesn't smell, you're going to overdo it. That being said, talk to me a little bit about the Go Fire product.
Yeah, so this is the Go Fire inhaler. We call it an inhaler. It's not
put it right up to the camera. There you go.
There we go.
Right.
All right.
So this is the Go Fire inhaler, and we've been building this for. We just had our 5th birthday as a company yesterday.
Oh.
And the intention is really to circumvent all these safety issues that are now being talked about. Was kind of what we anticipated, and built a system around that with a lot of really cool features. So this is the Go Fire Smart cartridge.
What makes it smart?
So what makes it smart, you can see this little smart chip. And
I know why. Now I get it.
Yeah, so that chip stores all of the product info for what's inside of this cartridge. And first of all, you might notice something different about this cartridge is there's no metal parts, there's no wick, there's no coil, there's no heating element in this cartridge. No metal parts that could, potentially leach into the oil like we're starting to see with some of the 510 cartridges around there. And this the plastic is all, FDA approved, pharmaceutical grade, class 6 BPA free, all the good stuff. And so when I put this cartridge in, there's a little chip reader that talks to an app over Bluetooth, and it recognizes exactly what this product is. So it stores the batch lab results. So the third-party testing that gives you your cannabinoid profile, your terpene profile, every little milligram of what's in the oil in here, this batch-specific info is stored on the chip. So
it's a smart vape.
Yeah.
Show that to the kid. Show your app.
Right,
Yeah.
and the app is really cool. So the app is tied to the instrument, the chip, and it's measuring what you take, how much you take, when you took it, that whole thing, right?
Exactly. Well, it's not measuring how much you take in terms of measuring what you're taking in, but
Okay.
or analyzing the product, but it is measuring how much you're consuming. So you'll see on here.
Some don't want to know, by the way. I understand that too, but I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lot safer to know exactly what you're consuming when you're consuming it.
And so this shows the product info. This is a cartridge called Sauce, and it shows the community rating, and those are all, the crowdsource reviews. After every session of using a product, you can rate how well it worked for the reason you're using it for. So you're able to see the whole chemical profile, including with one tap, a PDF of the lab report of that batch.
That's cool.
Which is great. So you know exactly what you're putting into your body. You have that transparency. And the cool thing is that it's precision metered dosing. So there's a lot of, stuff out there that talks about metered dosing, precision dosing. The way this does it is through this click wheel. Every time you click this wheel, it's going to extrude exactly 2.5 milligrams of the oil into this little convection oven, and it's just hot air that blows over it and heats the product, and you can do it to exactly to the degree that you want.
Hey, that's a terrific tool.
Cool, yeah.
Hillary, you're going to have more fun gizmos and gadgets to come in and talk to us about, right?
Absolutely.
Hillary King, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to take
Hillary.
a break, and before we take this break, I have to kind of set this up. About 2 weeks ago, a dear friend of mine, Rob Schuler, passed away. Very upsetting to me because he's my age, and that's kind of scary when someone your age, just 30 days later, he gets sick and he's gone. I hired Rob to be the voice of Pro Cannabis Media. You hear his voice every time you see an ID, and you also hear his voice on our introductory video. So we're going to take a break, watch that, and listen that we will always have Rob Schuler's voice with us.
We are Pro Cannabis Media. Why? Because we are a media company that is pro cannabis.
Cannabis, because those stories are not being told.
We are live streaming from events.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the live stream from the New England Cannabis Convention. Hey, unbelievable. Here we are again in the Performer TV studios. Hi, everybody. Welcome to We Talk Live. I'm Jimmy Young.
And I'm Curt Dalton from Cannabis.net.
We are blogging on all topics. We are partners with Leafly, Weed Maps, Green Flower, MJ Headline News, Sensi Magazine, and The Weed Tube. We are Weekly News Dabs with Jimmy Young.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of News Dabs. I'm Jimmy Young reporting for the Pro Cannabis Media Group and ProCannabisMedia.com.
From New Orleans, Liz Dameron, Pro Cannabis Media Network.
We are interviewing cannabis experts on the podcast In the Weeds with Jimmy Young.
You were one of the co-authors of Question 4, which paved the way. First of all, how did you get picked for that honor, if you will?
We write laws and regulations. We advocate for them. And then we get licenses and keep them compliant.
But I do believe that Bruce is on the phone with us, so Curt, you can take it away as I go into my Rasta mode here.
Bruce, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. I'm just being quiet because I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's a rowdy show tonight, I gotta tell you. So I have to lead off right now. You left Canopy Growth, as you said. No, I was fired. The entire cannabis stock market crashed. Did you cause that?
Well, I didn't fire myself, so I don't think so.
We are a digital media company for the cannabis industry, telling their stories in their words.
There's nothing like having patients come back and say, I feel better.
I am confident that Congress is, at the very least in this current Congress, by next year, going to make it legal make it clearly legal for banks to take marijuana accounts, which is a big step forward.
I never thought I'd see the Red Sox win a World Series, let alone 3. Yeah. I never thought I'd see the Patriots win a Super Bowl, let alone 5. This is taped. Okay. It's a whole new world of weed out there.
We are ProCannabisMedia.com. Subscribe today.
My mic is hot, and I can now talk about Rob Schuler. He was also the voice at Gillette Stadium, not the main voice, but a regular voice at Patriots games. A father and a great guy. Never said no to anything I asked him to do for me, and I'll miss him. What else can I say? We'll all miss him. Great talent. And the best thing is we're going to have his voice on our IDs for as long as we can possibly keep it going. So, Rob, again, we'll miss you. Condolences to the family. And I look forward to hearing his voice on a regular basis, because that way we'll feel like he's never really left us. And that's my tribute to Rob Schuler.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.